Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Welcome to Red Storm Chasers. I'm Vincent here with Tim and Craig. On this episode, we'll look back at the Fordham victory and we'll look ahead to the Xavier and UCONN matchups, first Big East matchups of the season. Tim, Craig, how you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Luckily, I had a scare with my daughter thinking that she had pink eye, but she punched herself in the eye instead. A much better ending for me.
Much better outcome there.
I know. I'm
Probably rough for her.
well, yeah. She's dealing with it. She's a trooper. She's pretty tough. But I'm in my last 3 days of my 90-day policy with the Turnpike Authority. And if you miss a day in those 90 days, your 90 days starts over again.
Oh, geez.
And you can't work from home until you crack those 90 days. We get 2 days a week virtual, which is amazing.
Yeah,
for me.
that's great.
But I don't get that until the 90th day, which my 90th day is Christmas. So we're
Christmas
recording.
count?
Yeah, we're recording on Tuesday, dropping on the game Wednesday before Xavier, and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Those 3 days, I'm done. I'm locked in. I'm certified 90 days through there. I'm like, I cannot afford for my wife to miss another day of school because she's a teacher and she's pregnant. We're about to have a son. I'm about to have a son, which is very exciting. Hopefully a future St. John's point guard. I'm only 6 foot, so I really can't push that far. It's point guard
good
nothing.
enough.
Point guard nothing. That's the ceiling, unfortunately, for my genetics here. But at least a St. John's fan, which would be also just as good. So, Craig, how's your day going?
My day's good. My basement was flooded yesterday, not flooded anymore, so that's good.
Splash pool.
Yeah, power went out. Not good. Didn't lose anything though, so that's good. Can't complain too much.
That's what really matters.
Yeah.
Yep.
Started celebrating Christmas this weekend. Had some family parties with other parts of the family we don't see on Christmas. So that was nice. Get the holiday season started. So it was good. How about you, Vincent?
Same old, just chugging along, middle of basketball season and finishing finals. So that's what we got. Yeah, pretty much an average week. It was only one St. John's game, so it wasn't very.
No.
Not enough
The one we
excitement.
had was pretty good though.
Yeah.
The one we had was very good.
Being an MSG and being a mollywhopping, just nice.
And it was
clean,
Saturday.
structure.
It was Saturday.
Yeah.
It was a sad. I just felt like it was a long week. You had to wait it out to get to the St. John's game, but we did. We got there, and when we got there, we had a great win, 77-55.
Yeah.
Win over the Fordham Rams. Exactly what we were looking for in not our Madison Square Garden debut, but kind of the restart, I guess, of the Madison Square Garden trip. We go from there. Now we've got a home game. I know it's not in the Garden, but against Xavier.
Yep.
So, we start our kind of home stretch and heading into Big East play.
We'll get into the bulk of the schedule now, right? It's not. We have, next week we have 2 games. This week we have 2 games, and then one. Then of course we have Christmas.
Then we play
one. But then we get it back into where it's more regular and it's more, really the meat of the schedule. Big East time.
Yeah,
the most important time of the year.
Good way to start it off for sure.
Yeah, a little earlier this year than last year.
The Big East play. Well, last year we played DePaul.
Oh, that's right. We did have the one random.
It was just one. This year there's 2, but everybody's 2 because
it's
Big East. Big East games going on.
It made sense last year.
Tuesday.
DePaul, you look at their ranking, and you look at her out of conference schedule last year. It made sense why they were mixing in the OOC there.
It was funny though because we were the only ones who did that. Like this year, everybody's now started Big East play, whereas last year was just us who had started early, which is kind of weird. But anyway, we'll get into the Xavier game and the UConn games, which will be this week. Excuse me. But anyway, let's look back at Fordham real quick because it was a dominant game. It was a great performance. This is not to beat a dead horse, but this is, the performance we expect when we play a team like Fordham, to be completely honest. We out rebounded them, we outshot them. We didn't shoot great from three.
We shot
Six
okay from three, but not
six
great.
of
Yeah.
6 of 18 is okay. Like I said, it was okay.
It's okay.
It's a
You
number
weren't
you can live with at certain points.
correct. It's not living and dying with the three, which is great. Which had been our problem in previous games. So it's nice to see that we could shoot okay and still win. But you do like to see that number a little bit higher from this team.
Yeah.
So Soriano, of course, leading the way, 20 points. Ledlam had a good game though, 11 points from him. 11 of our 12 players scored, so that's a good,
That's
good to
good.
be able to
Good balance.
balance. We talked about that, it was maybe last episode before, but you know, you don't have to be super deep, right? A lot of teams play with 7 guys, but when you can get something off of a bench guy that you don't really expect, it puts your team in a better place. The more opportunities and more guys you have who can really lead you, I shouldn't say lead you, but really give you something that's going to put your team in a better place, the better off you are in the long run.
Yeah, and I mean, one of our bench guys, Sean Conway, got the start, so that
Yeah.
was a little different. Dingle came off the bench, and now the rumor is that Naheem Ali may get the start
I
for
heard
the
that.
game against Xavier, which you watch Aline this year. He's been consistent. He's good on defense. He doesn't take an excessive amount of shots that are unnecessary. He takes shots that are open for him. It's not a bad move.
No, I like it. To be honest, I mean, after the Boston College game, look, that was a game we should have won. There needed to be a little bit of
Yes.
a shakeup. There should have been there, and this Fordham game was a good reaction to that game, right? I mean, the defense that looked not great against Boston College looked much better against Fordham, much more connected. Now, look, Fordham's not as good, for sure. But they miss a lot of shots, but hold them to 25% from the field, no matter who you're playing, that's pretty good.
Mhm.
You know, so definitely a better performance there. I think the Conway start was, trying to Dingle didn't have a great game against Boston College. So I think he's, Patino wants to give him a message, and that make sure everybody knows, no spot's safe, right? Everyone's playing for minutes at all times. So, Dingle still ended up playing starters minutes, just to be clear,
Yeah.
but and he should. There wasn't, he should, but you got to make sure, got to keep everybody, on their toes a little bit. So, I think it made sense, and I like Aline. I think Aline's got a great shot. He can hit the three, not even set. Like he can pull up for a three, which is not everybody on our team can do that. So and he's a good defender. So I think that would be, it's not bad, and I would like that. Like to see that.
Yeah, every once in a while a shakeup is good. We get some good news. RJ Lewis coming back from injury. So that'll be a nice addition too when he
Clear
does get back.
when he does get back.
He won't be back
Yeah.
right away, but he's heading in the right direction, I should say.
Cleared for activity.
Yeah, he's
Yep.
cleared for activity, so he's gonna
That's
play
big.
gonna play soon-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
which is
they're
good.
shin splints. You can't really do much about them. You just kind of roll with it and wait for the shin splints to end, and then you just go, RJ Luis, please come back to practice. You're good now. And you hope there's no
I hope it doesn't
no
get him back.
repercussions to it.
But
Yeah,
I think
hopefully.
going back to what you said, Craig, just about the defense, that was, I think, the biggest thing, right? And I know it's Fordham, and everyone will say, "Oh, it's just Fordham," but holding anybody to 25%. I know I'm repeating your point here, but that's a major, major defensive victory. Also, 11% from three. They
Yeah.
only hit 2 threes in the entire game.
True.
So, as bad as our defense has been, this was a bit of a turnaround game, and the hope is that you can build off this heading into obviously this 2 weeks or 2-game Big East week, and then into the whole Big East season, because we're gonna need it. We can't play defense like we played against Boston College and expect to
No.
win games against teams like UConn, right?
No. And,
I don't
and the amount of open threes this time was very different. Everyone, we always have this problem where we would over rotate, and even before Anderson, it was always this over rotation defense that would always put us in a situation where a guy was in the corner by himself. The last game, we didn't have this issue. Much better organization on the defensive end. The guys, I don't know if they were more vocal with one another or if they were just more aware of the who had who and who would have to switch. But the amount of open threes was very limited, and the rebounding was very good as well. So I think we follow that into Xavier. Don't let him get into a hot shooting streak. That can help us, and then go into UConn as well. So it was the kind of defense and rebounding combination that we needed.
We certainly hope it continues. So that was the only game last week. So we'll head to our spotlight player of the week. It's not a lot of sample size, I guess, but I think this one's kind of easy. This time I'm going to go first.
Sure, when it's
because
easy, you go first.
Well, listen, I haven't voted for our spotlight player of the week. The guy who's going to win this week before. So let me just be the first to vote for Joel Soriano, who certainly deserves it. 20 points, 10 rebounds. He absolutely dominated this game, and I think he absolutely deserves spotlight player of the week this week.
Especially good for him to come out against his old team and look good. I'm sure it had to be a little disheartening for Fordham to watch. It's like watching your new girlfriend with her new boyfriend. You don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that. But he did look
Especially when they're
good.
driving a BMW and you drive a Camry.
Absolutely. But it was good to see. It was good to see him take over the game at certain points, and he's just so important to us. He just, he's the best player on the team by a wide margin. So when he's out of the game, we need him in the game. We need him scoring as much as possible. So
Yeah, exactly. And also, the Big East may have only given him on a roll this year and not given player of the week, but unanimous spotlight player of the week, Joel Soriano.
more important.
We could call Nick in right now and be like, "Hey, Nick, Joel Soriano," and if he starts to talk about something else, we just hang up on him real
Because he
quick.
has a fever dream. Who knows?
Yeah,
I mean, he certainly would vote for Joel Soriano. I think it's this week. It's clear cut.
Yeah.
So
okay. Let's
Joel
work on that
Soriano?
graphic.
You're the spotlight player of the week, my guy. But heading into an important week, an extremely important week for us now, as we turn our focus to Big East play. And the week starts on Wednesday, and a home game at Carnesecca Arena against the Xavier Musketeers. It's 6-5 on the year. I have to say they're not exactly, I think, what everyone expected, but we'll get into them in a second. Their last game was against Winthrop. They had a 75-59 win, but they've had an up and down season. They've had good wins, St. Mary's and Cincinnati, both good teams. But they've lost to the other really good teams they've played: Purdue, Houston, Washington. Losses to them. They were picked to finish 6th in the Big East, so they are supposed to be a middle of the Big East, which is higher than most people's other conferences. I should say higher than other conferences, but I think they were supposed to be a little bit better, or I think at least maybe in my mind, I thought they were going to be a little bit better than they've been. They haven't been, the Xavier team of old who comes out and is consistently solid. They have had a bit of flux.
They've had a lot of injuries, to be fair. To them.
I
A
think
lot of injuries.
that's definitely part of the cause. So it's interesting to see, and I'll start our conversation off with this. I think this is a must-win game for us, and I know it's hard to say because it's our first Big East game of the year, but I absolutely think this is a must-win game. What do you guys think?
100% with you. It's if this goes down as a loss, it puts us in a situation where we're always grasping for straws, I think, because that means we don't want to start 0-2 into Big East play. We don't want to lose to Xavier, lose to UConn. Minimum, we want 1-1. Right. UConn's a lot harder matchup than Xavier, so we need to come in, be a big Xavier. And one of the things that we have seen from Xavier this year, they're inconsistent on defense. They will play Houston, who's a top 5 team, only let them score 66, but then follow up with a game where they played Delaware and Delaware scores 87. The Blue Hens score 87 points on them, but the Cougars only dropped 66 on them. Like, who are we gonna get? We getting Jekyll or are we getting Hyde? That's the question on Xavier.
Which one's worse, Jekyll or Hyde? I want the whatever one is worse.
I would say
Hyde, right? Hyde's the better one.
Hyde's a crazy one that doesn't understand what defense is
True.
and just wants to score crazy.
No, I think that's a good point, Tim. I think the inconsistency on defense from them is obviously helpful for us. 'Cause, offensively we've been pretty good, so we can take advantage of that. We have to play well defensively. I think to your question, Vincent, is this a must-win game? I think yes. I think it is. I think, looking at the net rankings, which is kind of what we have now since there's no Big East games. Xavier is 6th in the Big East at 63 in the net rankings. We're 7th at 66, right? Providence right behind us at 70. That's the 6th, 7th, 8th best teams in the Big East, according to the net rankings, right? Butler's up there a little bit higher. They're 5th. So those teams in the middle are where the bids are going to lie, right? We know the top 3 teams are going to get in. The other, and Villanova's probably going to get in. Villanova, they're kind of 4th there. They're probably going to get in. Who's going to be 5? Who's going to be 6? And, God willing, who's going to be 7, right? To win. So against those teams that we're going to be right up against in terms of tournament figuring out. Our game at home, we have to win.
Big East tournament seeding.
Big
Right?
East tournament,
it's
it all matters.
Extremely important to Big East tournament seeding.
So I think to your point, because we're comparable to them in terms of where we're going to end up. Probably, I mean, maybe not, but at least theoretically where we're at right now. That's why I think it's a must win. It's a home game against that team.
Yeah, 100%. This is the Xavier's a team we're going to be battling with in the end for Big East tournament seed, for NCAA tournament seed, hopefully. So and like you mentioned, Tim, you want to start off ahead of the 8 ball, right? If you start with a loss, you're automatically starting. They always in football they always talk about getting ahead of the sticks, right? If you lose game 1, knowing you're going to UConn in game 2, you're looking at already being behind the sticks by the time you reach your 3rd Big East game. So you're looking to avoid that, and you need to do that with a win on Wednesday against Xavier.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at it this way: do you want to verse a team who has lost to Oakland, or a team that has beat UNC and Gonzaga? You want to verse the team who lost to Oakland.
Yeah.
So we have to utilize the time we have there, be up on Xavier at Carnesecca, which our record at Carnesecca is fantastic. We got to utilize that. We need the students there being loud. We need everyone loud on their feet when timeouts are called because we're dominating on defense. We need the sound. We need the domination. And it's the simple fact of we lose to Xavier in this game. It's different between being talked about as a 2, 3, or 4 seed in the Big East tournament and being a 5, 6, or 7 seed.
Yeah, and I think also there's something about the narrative. Early in the season there was a lot of hype with Rick Pitino coming in, and we were on ESPN, and we were in all these things, and it's kind of petered out a little bit because we lost to Dayton. We didn't make it to the end of that tournament, and we lose a game to Boston College, right? We lost to Michigan. So a couple of big spots we didn't perform great, frankly, on the national stage. So we need to turn the narrative back around, and there's plenty of time to do that. I mean, there's a world of time to do that. And it starts, I think, with Xavier. I mean, if you win that, the problem is, here's the downside of that, right? The upside, you beat Xavier. No one especially win at UConn. So that game doesn't really matter. It's house money. You win, spectacular. If you lose, no one expects us to win that game. If you lose to Xavier, all of a sudden, first of all, St. John's fans are going to start having PTSD to all of the bad years of the past.
It's immediate flashback.
And I think the media all of a sudden will start questioning. And all of a sudden now there's, sharks start swimming around the waters, and the narrative will change, and it won't be positive. So we, it's a must win for a lot of reasons, in my opinion. Not
I
only
do.
standing wise, I think narrative wise, I just think it's very important. When tonight, at this point, if you're listening to this tonight, is a massively important game.
It is. It's good. It's the most important game this season so far. So we'll see what happens. That game's 7 o'clock Wednesday, Fox Sports 1. It is not the only game we play this week, though. We do, as we mentioned, at number 5 UConn on Saturday, 8 p.m. That game's on Fox. UConn coming in 10-1. They play Seton Hall on a Wednesday. That'll kick off their Big East play before playing us. They are coming off into this week with a win against number 10 Gonzaga. They also have wins against UNC and Texas. They do have a nice loss at Lawrence, Kansas. That is their only loss of the season. Like you said, Craig, no one expects us to win this game. This is they're number 5 in the country. And listen, I know we did beat them last year when they were
True.
top 10, when we weren't supposed to beat them in the stores. All my point in saying that is simply I don't think it happens 2 years in a row. But hey, if it does, I'll be all the happier.
Yeah.
But I just, I think a little bit of payback for beating them in stores last year might be coming our way, although they did beat us in the Garden. So, you never know.
Yeah.
I guess we could be. It may be nice to fall back into that old trend if we could get them in stores. But
Except the losing at the Garden part. That part was not fun.
Yeah.
no. But
Well,
that's not what
we
we're
do-
talking about here.
We do get to this is the game where we get to see if Joel Soriano is going to get the nod for either the opportunity to get Big East Player of the Year or first team All Big East. Because if he takes down Clingan, there we go.
That's a huge
we
matchup.
prove our point.
For
Yeah.
sure. So we'll give you the key players, one of them being Donovan Clingan. He is their big, tall center, 13 points a game, shoots 60%, 63%, excuse me, from the field, mainly because he's so close to the basket, he can just lay it in. They still have Alex Caravan, who 15 points a game, 6 rebounds, 54% from the field. He's their other big man. So that's what Joel Soriano will have to deal with down low. They also have 2 new guards, Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, 16 points, 15 points respectively. They're good shooters. Spencer shoots 49% from the field and 45% from three. And Newton is kind of your point guard, 6 assists per game. They got a lot of talent, right? They're a very talented team. But you're 100% right, Tim. This is a big game for Joel. If he wants to be in that category, he's got to come out and he's got to have a Fordham-like performance, to be completely honest. Because otherwise it's going to be Joel Soriano's great when he doesn't have to play against big guys. And we know that that's not true, right? We know he held his own in multiple games last year against, 7-foot guys and 6'11" guys. And, the guys that are thought to be the best big men that we faced. But like Craig said, part of it is the narrative, if it becomes, his first real test against UConn, he came up small. That's a narrative that's hard to kick. So it is a big game for Joel. But, it only to a certain extent, right? He needs to come out. He needs to score. He needs to make rebounds. He needs to be able to, have a presence down low. But I don't know how much weight we can give when it's kind of expected to be a loss.
I mean, it's tough because UConn, look, we all know they're defending national champions.
Yeah.
And Klingon, Klingon, whatever the hell his name is, he was a reserve on that team. So, and now he's just that's how good that team was last year, by the way. And they're good again this year. Really good. I watched some of their early season games. They're really good. They are, Rick Pitino even said they're like a machine. They're like offensive machine. And because they play together and a lot of there's continuity there and there's experience there and they, so I get that and they're just very efficient. So it's gonna be a tough game for us for sure. But big time stage. It'll be, Saturday night, 8 o'clock. I believe we're on Fox. Quote me if I'm wrong.
Yep, absolutely on
We're on
Fox.
Fox. So big
8 o'clock.
stage, right?
Yep.
So what I would look at for this game is, a win would be spectacular. win certainly changes the narrative to a much, much more positive direction. It changes it astronomically, actually. It puts us back on the media frenzy that was early in the season. But I think no matter what, we have to. It's got to be close. We can't get whopped. We can't get like annihilated. We have to hold our ground. We have to, and I think we will. I mean, I'm not saying I don't think we're gonna get. I hope we're not gonna get annihilated. I mean, I think. Look, I think this team is very talented. Our team is very talented. It's about putting it all together, and if anybody can get them together and get them prepared for this game, is So, I have faith. I don't know that we'll win, but I have faith that we'll avail ourselves well.
I see for this game the player that beyond Soriano,
Sure.
we always watch Soriano. The player to watch is going to be Ledlam because we all know Soriano's going to have Klingon against him. Klingon's always going to go for the block. Ledlam's a dog down low. I predict he'll at least have 5 offensive rebounds in this game.
That'd be
And
huge.
I think his fight for the rebounds, creating second chance opportunities, is going to be one of the big points of this game. I think it's going to be very close. I think if we come out with an Xavier win by at least 5 points, I predict a win at the XL Center.
Wow, Tim. This is
Yes.
very bold.
Yes.
Feeling frisky.
So, and then the UConn fans and the UConn AD can stop talking about that New York is their town. Fuck them.
Fair enough. I mean, not really sure about the 5 point. I like the optimism, but I don't know if that holds true. But the whole New York thing, I think is really just I find it to be a funny joke, to be completely honest. I think when you're from a place like Connecticut and you just so much crave the attention because you are so much an afterthought, you need to pull on to something. And they do that by trying to claim New York as their home because
I mean, you're a drive-through state.
because
Let's
no
be
one
serious.
cares about Connecticut.
The other piece I want to talk about in this game is, because of how good UConn is in offense, this is gonna be the biggest test our defense has.
Absolutely.
And we'll
Oh,
see.
yeah.
We will see how much progress we've made on defense or how much progress we haven't made on defense. It'll all come to bear against UConn because they're going to pick apart any little thing we have wrong. So that's what, in terms of preparation, that's the thing I'm interested to see and how the defense does, because that's really going to be the turning point, in my opinion. Is how well the defense plays. I think we'll score. I think that's fine. I think the defense is important, and the other thing, I think Naheem Aline has a day.
Well,
being back
it's
home.
comeback game, right?
Yeah, I
it's
could see it.
comeback. So I can see that. And that would be nice for him. I could see him being in the starting lineup for that game, like we talked about.
Yeah.
Certainly
Yeah,
makes sense.
He
Good to
gets his
have him there.
ring and then he rings their bells.
That would be nice. Good Christmas tie in there, Tim.
Bingo.
But yeah, no, I think 100%. And coming off the Fordham performance, you go, okay, I think this team can play defense. Let's just hope they can put it together against a high-powered offense.
Much different between Fordham and UConn.
It is,
just
but
a little bit.
It's the only time we can look and say,
No,
okay,
I mean, it's
this
true.
is the defensive style that works best for us.
Yeah, I don't
So
disagree.
it's got to be the defense we implement. Whether it works or not, we'll find out. But it's going to be a game. Hopefully, it's a good game. Hopefully, it's a game that goes in our favor.
Tim said
Wednesday.
we're gonna win, so I'm going with that.
Listen, like
Tim,
Tim
what happens
said,
if we win by 4 against Xavier? Is that like we're gonna lose on a buzzer beater?
that's it.
or-
No, you're out. It's
Who
only
knows?
5.
Who knows at that point?
You
Has
don't
to be
know?
5. Has to be 5.
Has to be 5. It's plus 4.5. The line is plus
You
4.5.
gotta have 5.
Okay,
If we come out of the week 1-1,
I'll be
I
happy
think
with that.
I think it's a success.
It's a net positive.
I would happy.
If
I'd be okay with that result.
Let me tell you, it'll certainly ruin Christmas if we go 0-2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll certainly make Christmas a little bit not as it has.
Although if we go 2-0, it'll make Christmas very exciting.
Oh, all right. That would be something. All right. So one other thing, and I think I disagree with Rick Pitino, for the first time this season. In the press conference following the Fordham game, he was asked following the Dan Hurley post-game press conference in Gonzaga, where he said Dan Hurley made a comment about Gonzaga possibly, joining the Big East. Rick Pitino was asked about it, and when asked about it, I have to read you the quote because it is a little confusing. But so he said, "100% no. I don't feel like getting on a plane for 5 or 6 hours. Tell Dan Hurley he can join their conference, but if they want to join for basketball only, hey, let's do it." All right, so I disagree. I think adding Gonzaga would be great. I know people care about geography and names, and I think that's stupid. Geography and names no longer matter in college sports, so Gonzaga being the Big East is not an issue. I understand the issues it has with other sports, but adding them as basketball only would be absolutely spectacular. Rick Pitino saying 100% no, and then saying, but we could also just add them basketball only. I don't get it.
I think it was one of those situations where you start talking about something and then the money hits your head again. You go, oh shit, I forgot about that. I think he was talking about, he goes, I don't want to do a 5 or 6 hour flight. And then you remembered how much money the upcoming contract for the Big East basketball schedule could be, and thought about it again. It goes, hey, only basketball though. We don't want to have the soccer team have to fly out 5, 6 hours. I care about them too.
I think you thought he was a soccer coach for a second. Hit a
Yeah.
momentary lapse, and you thought I was like, wait a second, would I have to do this? No, I agree with you. I think Gonzaga would be a good ad. They're fit the profile in terms of everything besides geography. Um, in
And the
terms of,
contract's up.
and we need to stay relevant. Ever shifting landscapes. The Big East, especially with the new potential NCAA 1A, 2A model that they're floating out there. The NCAA floated out for
That's
new
Yeah.
rules.
terrible for us, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
We have to
Crush
stay
them while you
relevant.
have it.
We have to stay relevant. I mean, we have to, if they're going to do that, we need to make sure for basketball purposes, if the big conferences decide to screw over the little conferences, we need to make sure that the Big East is part of the big conference screwing over the little conference and not the other way around. So
We're fine if that's the case.
Yeah.
It's only the other way if it's pro.
So if adding Gonzaga helps them because it helps bring up, our media rights deal and all that good stuff, then by all means, get on a plane and we'll
Yep.
figure it out.
Get Gonzaga and then wait 2 years for the ACC to implode and then steal Duke and UNC.
I mean, that
That's-
would be
that's the plan.
a dream scenario.
The ACC maybe be doomed a bit more sooner than that. To be honest, I don't know how much longer they last. But I don't know. It'd be fun to watch.
Realignment's always an interesting topic because North Carolina, Duke. You would assume the Big Ten would go after at least UNC.
They would have done it by now.
They know no one's touched the ACC schools because of their media rights contract. So it's just true.
Florida State has now, after getting snubbed in the playoffs, decided that they might be out of the ACC.
Florida State, yeah. I mean, the payout though for Florida State is it's massive.
Yeah,
But I don't look. There's going to be 2 conferences that matter in college football.
they didn't
maybe
make
3.
it because they're in the ACC, right? They're an undefeated football
100%.
team. They didn't make the playoff because they're in the ACC.
I don't disagree.
What else could they do except leave the conference? I get it.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to ignore that Alabama is trying to flip flop on quarterbacks the whole season. But yeah.
I mean, I just think it's interesting, because it's very football driven, obviously, and then but there's a basketball implication always, and because we're so basketball centric, if we can be strategic in terms of picking teams off from the ACC, if they end up imploding, that would be great. The other team I would think we should add in terms of is Dayton. That's the only other lower level team I would grab.
We should
Because
have
they have good facilities,
Absolutely.
they have good fan base, they've
Yeah.
been good generally for a long time. That would be the only one. I know people talk about St. Louis, so that doesn't do it for me. They
Well,
don't.
it was like
there's-
kind of like Wichita State, how they've fallen off.
Yes,
Wichita State would have been a good ad.
would have been
but
a good ad.
by not
would've
adding
been a
them. We basically let them go into relevance.
Yeah.
But
Which is what we
Dayton
did which, by the way, what we did to UConn the first time. Just for everyone to
what we should
remember
have
that.
kept doing to UConn, by the way.
Yeah. And they're still
Uh,
paying Kevin Ollie.
Kevin Willard, by the way, absolutely had that correct. The only
100%.
guy who voted not to let UConn back in. Kevin
UConn only
Willard.
got propped up because they're back in the Big East.
And we should never have let them back in.
let's be honest about that.
But Dayton is
UConn's-
good. You add Dayton, by the way, you get the first 4 money. So
Mm.
Yeah.
more money. Alrighty.
We'll see.
That'll do it. That'll do it for this episode. For Tim and Craig, I'm Vincent. Go Johnnies. Keep chasing.